Hey, everyone. I hope you all can hear me well. I hope you're doing well and having a great Sunday today. Thank you so much again for joining me for the Paint With Me Live. This is, I think, our 11th or 12th episode. And every episode, it gets better and better. And I really, really enjoy being here. So if you're here for your first time or if you're here for your fifth time, watching me paint and work on my project, the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. I really, really appreciate you for being here. So if you're new here, my name is Brittany Lewis. I am a professional artist, a graphic designer, a tarot enthusiast, and Sundays is the day that I set aside to work on my dream project, the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. So before we get into the actual painting, I just want to do a few little housekeeping things. First of all, thank you all so much for supporting this journey. If you would like to support this stream, if you also would like to support this project, be sure to hit the thumbs up. That lets the YouTube algorithm push this video series to people who will benefit from it, who will enjoy watching it as much as you all do. So I do appreciate you doing that. Please do hit the thumbs up. And if you want to see more of these live streams and you want to be the first to know when they start, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to know when any new videos and things are uploaded and when any new live streams begin. That does me a huge favor and it definitely helps out this particular channel and my company. Another way that you all can help out is that I do have items and things listed on my website. And so if you would like to support this stream, if you would like to support the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, you can head over to blewisarts.com. You'll be greeted by this awesome pop-up that will give you free shipping on any item that you order for your first time. You can also sign up for the waitlist for the Cosmic Gateways Tarot there. And once you do, we have lots of different tabs. If you would like to hire me for your project, you can click on the Work With Me tab. If you would like to learn more about the Cosmic Gateways Tarot or to sign up directly to the waitlist outside of the pop-up, there is a whole tab for you as well. And then there is the shop where I have lots and lots of ebooks, lots of t-shirts, lots of canvas prints and things like that that directly support my business, that directly support this particular project. And so if that's something that you're interested in, I highly encourage you to check that out. I do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And thank you again to everyone who has supported so far. So, for instance, our Hermit Tarot Journal has, oh, no, that's our, I was going to say our Hermit is sold out. That's awesome. But we do have journals and things like that. But my book, which was my first book published in 2021, has sold out. But we do have it available as an ebook until we do reprints and all of that. But everything can be found on my website. And I do have links to everything down in the description. So that's it. That's just a little bit of early housekeeping. So if you would do those things for me, I highly appreciate it. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe if you want to learn about more. See when I post and upload and things like that. Right off the bat, be sure to do that. All right, here we go. So we're picking back up this week with our Two of Swords, which is what we've been working on for these last couple of live streams, right? I did spend a little bit of time developing more of the background for this particular image, but I stopped because I was like, hold on now, it's getting too good. What I ended up doing was I fleshed out this bush in the front. I also worked on some of the grass and things like that. They're lying along the forest floor of this image. And then I worked on the swords. So today my goal is to work more on the swords, finish those up. The beautiful thing about digital art is that I don't have to paint this twice if I don't want to. So I really want to work on developing the sword that I've started here. Once I finish that, then I'll be able to just kind of duplicate it. So that saves me a ton of time. So next week I got an extremely busy schedule. So I want to do as much as I can, as much as I can to this live stream, as much as I know how to do without, having to pause for long periods of time to kind of concentrate on what I'm doing. So that when we come back next Sunday, we can actually just wrap this thing up, right? And then the Sunday after that, we'll work on the Two of Wands. Fingers crossed. That's the goal. So we're going to start off on our Two of Swords. So if this is new for you, if you're new here, this is your first live stream that you're watching with me or that you're here with me. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I'm happy that you found me. The Cosmic Gateways Tarot is a project I started in 2019, so I've been working on it off and on for the last 5 years. And again, Sundays are the day that I sort of dedicate time specifically to this project. And I always encourage people that if there's a goal that you have in mind, if there's a project that you have in mind, you have to dedicate time to work on it. Otherwise, life will kind of continue to life. And before you know it, time has flown by. So we started this series, this particular Paint With Me Live series, in June of this year. So just imagine, from January to June, that was the first that I began working on this, or setting aside dedicated time to work on this project. So I definitely practice what I preach, and you are watching me do that live. So yeah, we're going to get into these swords. I'm going to turn on my sketch. And then I'm hoping, I'm not really sure how clear everything is for you guys in terms of the panels that I'm clicking on, but I'll, try to click and explain some of the things that I'm doing as I'm doing it. This week, I don't really have a specific topic. Last week, we talked a little bit about what Cosmic Gateways Tarot is, a little bit of my why, and you'll see that play out through some of my previous live streams, where we explain a little bit of why I chose to do a tarot deck, how I got into this particular project, and that kind of thing. And so today we're just going to focus primarily on getting this done or getting as far as we can in this particular illustration, so that, again, next week we won't have as much to do. We'll probably, just tidy some things up, do some rim lighting and some, glowing and things like that. Finishing touches. That's the goal. So we're going to see how it goes. So I was actually working again on the swords this week, and I was like, oh man, this is looking really good. And before I know it, I'm going to be done. And I'm not done with the sketch of the 201. So I actually needed something to be able to work on with you guys. So I decided to just kind of hold off. And I had a few other things going on. So here we are. And we're going to wait on this to auto save. And then we're going to get right into it. So if you have not checked out those previous live streams, I highly encourage you to do so. They run about an hour long, right? And we talk a little bit about, just different things as it pertains to this particular project. So I'm going to, what I'm doing now is selecting the shapes of my sword. So both of them are selected, although I'm only going to focus my attention on this one because these swords are in the background, and I do have some detail, a good bit of detail based on my reference images drawn in. What I'm going to do is actually simplify it a bit. Why? Because you have to keep in mind that these are cards that'll be pretty small, right? So, and this is something that's happening in our background. So I don't have to get extremely detailed. I do want to showcase the texture. This portion of the image is going to be the focal point because this is the Two of Swords. So I want people to be able to see it and recognize that this is the Two of Swords. And so that's sort of where we are with it. So yeah, let's get right into it. So I have actually been, again, working on a video where I kind of share some of my, favorite tools and things like that. And we had a couple of interviews early on in this particular series, this live stream series. And we had Sam and Lee on. So we'll probably have them on again. We're working on doing some more tutorials, give them a little more information about digital artwork and how the programs work and how, you can articulate your visions and different things like that. So I'm really, really excited about that. This week I've had quite a few big wins. And if you are an artist, if you are a creative entrepreneur, maybe if you're not, you may have noticed that a lot of creators are having pretty tough, challenging years. I will say that this year has definitely been one of the more challenging entrepreneurial years that I've had. And I've been in business for quite a while. This one has definitely tried, definitely tried a lot of my wherewithal. Definitely tried a lot of my, I wouldn't say definitely my patience. It has definitely tried my patience. Being a business owner is definitely not for the faint of heart. Everything falls on the business owner. So when you have sort of like a job structure, you don't have to worry about, bringing in clients. You don't have to worry about marketing. You don't have to worry about any of those things, which is a good thing for a lot of people, right? Those decisions, you don't really have to deal with because the world is weird right now. It's been a very challenging year for a lot of creative entrepreneurs, and I am no exception to that. It's definitely been something different. So I had quite a few wins this year, not this year, but this week, and things are looking up. So I'm really, really excited about that. I think one of the issues that people are having, especially in the field of graphic design and illustration, is that one is a very saturated field, right? It's very, very saturated. And because of that, you're constantly getting new graduates and things like that. Companies specifically in the job market, are not necessarily willing to pay for something that they feel like they can get for less, right? And that's when you have the advent of like Canva and things like that, where they can do a lot of in-house work for less than it would be to hire a graphic designer. For a lot of businesses, again, because most of the people that I work with are other business owners, other small businesses, they're struggling too, right? And so because of that, it's they're not hiring quite the same as they would be. So the way that I've figured to combat that is, one, to focus on the actual, like, what is it that I actually want to do, right? What is it that I actually want to do? Do I want to spend time in an area that ultimately, I don't think I'll be in for much longer? Do I want to lean into the project that I want to do? And, hence, wink, wink, while we're here for the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, that's certainly something that I have taken into consideration. And so, yeah, but we've had some great wins this week, and like I said, things are looking up. I think not just for myself, but for a lot of creators, and that feels great. That feels great. And one thing I will say about being an entrepreneur is that, again, it's not really for the faint of heart. It definitely um, it can be difficult, but it also can be very liberating, right? So there's a lot of freedom in choosing who you work with, choosing the types of projects that you take, choosing your pricing, making sure that you are being treated fairly and compensated fairly for the work that you do. And so that's something that I thoroughly enjoy. I thoroughly value in my experience, having the options to do that, being able to sit here and spend a good bit of my time working on dream projects, right? Being able to pivot without too much pressure. And I think a lot of that has to do with having a great support system. So thank you to my husband, who has been a beautiful support system. My family has been a great support system for me in this journey. And I think that's important, right? I think that's important when you're starting out any venture. With that, though, it still can be quite lonely. So, again, you just have to learn your whys when you're doing different things like that. When you're getting into business, when you're creating, when you're learning, and things like that, have your whys solidified in your mind, right? So that when things get difficult, as they have proven to me this year, when things get difficult, you can kind of lean on and remind yourself of why it is that you're doing whatever it is that you're pursuing. Because everybody's journey, everybody's struggle is not necessarily going to be yours, and it's not going to necessarily dictate the experience that you're going to have, right? So if I'm looking into digital art, right? Let's say, for instance, I'm learning digital art for the first time, and have these grand dreams that, I'm going to be working for, Pixar, some, Disney, maybe get an Imagineering job like that. There's nothing to say that you won't do it, right? You'll have people who will naysay you, and they'll say, well, it's so hard, it's this, that, and the third. But if you believe that you can do it, that's all really that matters. You're going to find a way to make that happen for yourself. So yeah, that's where we are. So what I just did was kind of did some cutouts, and I'll look over at the screen to see what you all see. Uh, and it's been 15 minutes already. This today, I don't know if y'all are experiencing this, but today is ran by so fast. It has ran by so doggone fast. But yeah, okay. So now that I have those cutouts made, now when I reselect my sword and I, kind of draw on top of it, I don't have to worry about messing up the texture and messing up the, cutouts and things like that. So I love digital art for that. It's very convenient. I actually went down, wrong thing. I went down memory lane not long ago, where I was watching some of my old videos. And if you are new to this channel, I started this particular channel, I would say it's been about 10 years ago, maybe 10 years, maybe a little bit more than that. But I started this channel as a means for just creating, right? Just like we're doing here. Except at that time, I was really afraid. I was very afraid to be on camera. So most of the videos are just time lapses of me, creating whatever project I'm working on, usually fan art, a lot of commissions. I share a lot of the commission processes and things like that. And so uh, I've learned and grown quite a bit, but there's a lot of art on this particular channel. So if you want to get caught up on what kinds of art and what kind of skills that I've had and developed over the years, There are so many videos. There's so many videos on this channel. And I'm really proud of myself. It's really interesting because even as a digital artist, I can kind of see my growth and expansion in this particular field. I had started my digital art journey in I want to say the early 2000s. So somewhere 2006, 7, and 8, somewhere up and through there. And I started on a little bamboo tablet, a Wacom bamboo. It was little, I don't even think the thing was it might have been an 8 by 10, maybe the size of a sheet of paper. And at the time, I had a laptop, and so I would just hook it up to Photoshop because then there weren't a lot of options for digital artists. So, for the most part, we drew in Photoshop. And so I would draw in Photoshop, and I started by copying images. I would sometimes trace over images just to sort of get the feel of what it is to paint on a tablet. And the bamboo, unlike the screen display that I'm working on now, so if you guys see me looking down, I'm actually actively drawing on a screen display, right? And so with the way that the bamboo works is that you don't look down, you kind of look at the screen, right? So you have to develop a hand-eye coordination, which helped. So I worked on that sort of tablet for many years. I graduated from the bamboo up to the Intuos Pro, and I used the Intuos Pro for more years than that, maybe maybe 5 or 6 years before graduating to an XP pen. An XP pen is a company similar to Wacom. It's probably on the lower end of the pricing scale, and I dare say lower end of the quality scale a little bit, or at least that was at the time. I'm sure they've upgraded quite a bit since then. But at the time that I was, working with them. Oh, hey, I just saw the chat. Thank you so much. Hey, PL. Thank you, Black Zetsu. Thank you, PL. Oh, and PL, shout out to you. Thank you so much for buying me a coffee last live stream. I so appreciate that. It made my heart smile every time I get like little notifications from you guys, messages and things like that. I so appreciate that. So if you would like to join PL and buy me a coffee or a tea, because I'm a tea drinker, but if you would like to support this channel with a small donation, be sure to check out the QR code on the screen. And I'll leave that there for just a little bit, a few seconds, and then we'll get on back to drawing. But hey, everybody, I'm so sorry for my delay at saying hey. I appreciate y'all for being here. I hope the sound and things are coming through clearly. But yeah, so I forgot what we were talking about, but we just gonna rock with it. But yeah, so we're here. We're working on this sword. What I just did was sort of, and I'll show you again because I did it and I looked at it, but I didn't explain exactly what I was doing. So what I did was I did a little bit of texturing on this sword, right? Because this sword is in the background, although this is our focal point, but because this is in our background, we don't need to render this to the gods, right? There we go. Okay. We don't need to render this. Like I have a bunch of details and things like that drawn in based on my reference image, but I have to keep in mind that this is an actual card. So we're seeing it much bigger on the screen than we would in real life and in practical use, right? So I'm going to deselect what I have selected. I'm going to turn off my sketch, and this will give me a good idea of what it's looking like so far. So far, the texture is running kind of together a little bit. It kind of, I don't, so what I will need to do and what I'm seeing looking at this is that I kind of need to differentiate some of the color variants, right? So we have a very bright sort of look on the bottom. I think it's fine. I just need to show that it is actually a blade. And I also have in here where I have it where it will look like it's hooked onto the tree or nailed into the tree. And so we want to articulate that as well. So yeah, it's not bad. It's not great, but it's getting there. The pommel for sure, I really like the handle of the sword. Very nice. And I think that's about as far as I'm going to push it. You can kind of see the texture. You can see the variation in color and in light. And that's sort of what we're going for. So we want to lead our eye to these swords because the numbers are going to sit right about here at the top. The numbers are going to sit here, but it's not going to read to a sword. So sometimes you'll get cards in tarot or oracle for sure. You usually always have writing on the cards, but in tarot sometimes you'll have where it will say Two of Swords, right? This won't be the case, and it's not the case in our original source material of or maybe yes it is. I think it is. But it won't be here. So we won't put two of swords here. We'll just have the numbers and we're going to let the pictures sort of speak to whatever the question is that the reader is having. So we want to make sure that our focal point is going sort of up into a triangle leading to the two swords. So those are going to get the most attention. But I have to keep in mind that they're in the distance. So if I'm looking at something in the distance, I'm not going to see as much detail as I would something that's closer up. So I have to play a little bit with texture. I have to play a little bit with clarity because we do have some images and some items and things in our foreground. And so if I render those heavily, then you're not going to pay as much attention to the things that are going on in the background where I want you to lead the eye. So the way that we'll address that, and we'll get to it, I don't know if we'll get to it in this particular episode. I'm hoping that we do, so that again I can make life a little bit easier for myself next week. But what I will do is we will add some moss and things like that to these tree roots, and then we'll blur it out a little bit. And we do that so that your eye is not paying too much attention to the detail of those trees. Your eye is going to go to those swords, right? Into our figure, and our figure is going to lead us to that sword. So we'll get into it, kind of like this reference where we have the trees and things like that. But I'm going to take you back to our main two of swords reference. And again, I went a little bit of a different route because the two of swords represents decision making. It's its overarching theme. Now there are some nuances to that. She's holding two very heavy swords, that could play into the type of decision that she's making, but they're identical swords, right? So it to me reads as, because I know it's decision, it reads to me as neither of the decisions are more important. Either avenue works, right? However, keeping in mind that everyone's not going to have that built-in sort of studied database of meanings, to me, the original Rider-Waite-Smith Two of Swords does not read as choice and decision. To me, right? It doesn't read it to me at all. So when I went into designing this particular car, I wanted to make sure that that was very clear. And the best way that I could think to do that was in a fork in the road. Now I wanted to have it like a pick a door type of situation, but one of the decks, I don't know why that I thought it was such a great idea, but I was just so happened to have been using one of my decks that I have, and I don't recall the name of the deck, but it's by the artist R Black, and it was just a little small deck that he made, just a collection of art that he wanted to sell. I don't think R Black is a tarot reader, but the deck is like on point to me. The images are great, right? But I was looking, I was like, dang, this is Two of Swords, and it was the exact same idea that I had. So I had to pivot a little bit. I probably could have done that. There are so many doggone tarot decks out there that I'm pretty sure there are a lot of overlapping themes, especially when it deals with this particular system, because the system's been around for so long. And also, it's the most written about. It is the most sort of duplicated in terms of being used as a reference point. So I'm certain there are plenty of overlapping images and things like that. But I was like, well, let me just challenge myself to figure out a way to articulate a choice in a way that reads a little bit clearer than holding the two swords, right? And so I came up with the fork in the road. This one was probably the most challenging idea that I had because I couldn't figure out a real life scenario. I don't know how it came to me, but it came to me. I was like, just do a fork in the road. And I had to draw it out, right? So the Two of Wands, which would be our next card that we work on, is a card that I'd had in my mind since the very beginning. So that was something that was very easy for me to articulate. The Two of Cups was one that mirrors the lovers. So that one was very easy to articulate. I knew that in that particular one, there wasn't going to be two cups, right? There was only going to be one. But I knew that I wanted to do an older couple, and I knew that I wanted it to mirror again that original lovers card. And then the Two of Pentacles was one that I had to kind of pull back from a lot of the ideas that I had and wanted to kind of shove into this picture. But for the most part, that idea came to me relatively easily. So we're on, I would call the hardest card for me to work on for a couple of reasons. One, because it is a landscape and I find landscapes particularly challenging, but I do think that I am growing in landscapes. I think that we've built a beautiful background so far. I think taking my understanding of how I want the focal point to be the focal point and how to illustrate that and to articulate that is sort of helping out the challenge of it. and I'm getting better. I think when I went back to watch some of those older videos, it reminded me of how much I enjoyed showing sort of the process of study, because I would consider a lot of what I was doing at that time study, except for the commissions and things like that. Of course, they were commissions and I was being paid to do that. But some of like the fan art and all of that, a lot of that was study, right? And so what I was thinking of doing, and you guys can kind of tell me how you feel about this, is that we'll eventually get back to doing produced videos. And so, again, one of those will be sort of my favorite tools and tips and tricks and things. Some of that will be with Sam and Lee, which were the two wonderful people that I had a conversation with a few weeks ago. So, some of that will be live with them, some of that will be standalone videos. And so, I know that that's a route that we're taking, right? However, if you guys would like to see more of how I actually study and how I would recommend a new artist to study and to, set up goals for yourself and to just improve as an artist, please let me know. I'm thinking about it because, for one, I really enjoy the process of creating. I enjoy the journey, sometimes far more than I enjoy the end product. The end product is just sort of cherry on top, but the journey is where I learn so much about not only myself, but like how art works. How to deliver a message in art, how to articulate an idea, and things like that. And so, what I'm thinking is, because landscapes is an area that I really would like to be able to easily do, right? Just like I can easily do portraits, just like I can easily create characters, I want to have that same ease of completion when it comes to landscapes. And so I was thinking about, just taking some time to study that. But if you would like to see videos specifically about that, and if that would help you along your artistic journey, or maybe, you're not an artist, you just like seeing artists create, and that is something that you would be interested in seeing, let me know about that. Let me know. It's the same goes for me planning out the different cards, right? Because once we get through the twos, I'm going to be working on the threes next. And so, what I typically do is I do a lot of brainstorming, a lot of research, a lot of coming up with keywords and phrases that I can then create artwork behind or create artwork from. And so a lot of that I don't share, have not shared it yet, except to show you guys what that looks like once it's all completed. But if you're interested in seeing me work through that in real time, let me know. Okay. And that way, if you have a project, and of course, and I'll say this as a disclaimer, the way that I do something may not work for you. However, it might be a jumping off point, right? It might be something that you try and you say, okay, I like this, but this is how I would do it to improve it. Then that's wonderful. That's what you're supposed to do as a student, as a human being. One person's solution isn't necessarily everyone's solution, and that's totally okay. But if I can share some part of what I do, why I do it, and that helps you in some way, I don't mind doing that. So just let me know. You guys be sure to tell me about it. You can send me a DM. You can put it in the comments below. If you put it in the comments below, that might help someone else who is watching it. So be brave. I won't bite you, I promise. So you're welcome to put it in the comments below. You're also welcome to put it in the chat. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. I've been really kind of considering where I would like to take this channel. Of course, we have so much Cosmic Gateways Tarot content to create. So I think for sure the live streams working on this, like I have, I'm halfway through the deck, so I have 30 something cards left to do. So this is always going to be a thing, I think. And I don't feel, any strain or stress like that. I really enjoy the live streams because of how easy they are. I don't have to, just produce as much. It's just me sitting down and creating, which I would do anyway because I have to get the project done, right? So it's just very easy for me to do. So for sure, we're going to continue with this particular series of, live streaming the process of creating the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. Again, we'll have Sam and Lee back on, so we'll be sharing a lot more of just the nuances of creating digital artwork for beginners, right? And so they're starting their journey as digital painters and digital artists. And so I'll, just kind of help them, and we're working that out and trying to figure out how we best do that, and the best place to best day and times to work that out. So that's really, really, really exciting. That's so exciting, to be able to do that and be able to work with them in real time. And so yeah, if you're interested in that sort of thing, again, leave a thumbs up so that I know, and that so also that YouTube knows that you enjoy that particular type of content. Um, and that helps me out quite a bit. So now what I just did was I turned off my sketch, and I did that for a reason. So the sketch creates a little bit of a false illusion because it's dark. And so it shows up as the lines from the sword, but because it's dark, it looks as if maybe I don't have as much work done. So it's best to turn it off to just kind of see. But what it has done is set up some great focal points. So for instance, we're going to zoom back out just to kind of see what that looks like, to see if I need to push it further. Again, this is in the background, so I don't need to do too much. I do want to make sure that it reads as a sword. So if I'm zooming out, what I will do from here is I'm going to work at it a little bit from a distance. And the reason being is because we're going to see this from a distance. So I don't necessarily like how this blotch of lighter color looks, right? So I think I'm going to darken that up a bit, and that's going to set aside or cause our actual lighter decorative area to stand out a little bit. It doesn't have to be rendered all the way because again, this is in the distance. This is a very small element in the distance of our card. I do want to make sure that it actually reads. And so one of the things that I do, I see my camera is frozen, but I hope, okay, there we go. I was going to say, I hope you guys can still hear me. But one of the things that I actually do is I will squint at my picture and I will squint, and that helps me to see value, right? So if I am creating something and I'm thinking that I'm seeing contrast is what pushes or pulls a picture forward or back, right? So it makes things look further in the distance as opposed to close up. And sometimes because we're working super close to what it is that we're doing, it can be easy to not see that. So one of the things that I do is to zoom out, and I will actually squint at this picture to make sure that elements that I want to show up, and make sure that things aren't necessarily blending together too much. I won't do that here because I don't think I'm brave enough to let y'all see me squint. But that is a thing that I would recommend doing. Maybe I'll do it live when me, Sam, and Lee go on, and I can kind of show them some of the artistic things. Another thing that I do, if you've ever seen like an artist on TV or things like that, where they're measuring and they're using like their thumb to measure, I do that. That is a very helpful thing. I will take the tip, especially when I'm doing portraits and drawing portraits. I will stand back away from my reference. I will take a pen or my thumb, usually a pen, and I mark it with my thumb. I will measure out the distance of something, and then I will, with my arm extended, take that to my canvas to make sure that my proportions and things are real. So that is something that we do. That's something that we as artists do. That is a part of the process. And so, yeah, that's just kind of one of those things. But what I did do as I zoomed out, and zooming out kind of helps me with that, is that I see that we need to make this part of the background stand out against the darker bush of the background. So we're going to make sure that we, add that in, and we'll zoom in and out. We'll zoom in and out, and that's just sort of part of the process. Now, it'll also, because this is metal, this will also kind of pick up some of the blue from our background, so we can add that in as well. We don't want it to blend too much with our bush, so we want to keep that in mind. Again, we want this to be our focal point, so we want to keep that in mind. We're just keeping a lot of things in the back of our mind as we're creating this particular image. So yeah, I saw that this needed to be differentiated a little bit, so I needed to add a little bit more contrast here. So I'm doing that by adding a darker color, and I can kind of see what you guys see, and what it's looking like is that it's blending in a bit. So we'll do something like that. And I also, where we have these cuts in the middle of our blade, because you really can't see them, what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline them in a lighter color on a separate layer, just in case I don't like it and I don't want to erase over what we've already done. I've gone over to my layers panel to the side, which will be above my head in this particular live stream. And I added a layer by pushing the new layer button. And I'm going to name that cutout outline. And so what we'll do is we will pick up this lighter color, And we're just going to outline it a bit, and then we're going to see how we like it. So yeah, I'm actually glad this is taking a bit. I didn't anticipate working this long on the swords, but I'm kind of glad I am because uh I don't know yet how I want to articulate my main character. So this kind of helps me not procrastinate, but it just kind of helps me drag that process out a little bit. So yeah, very easy. It doesn't have to be super complicated. We just want to keep in mind the parts that we want to articulate here. And again, because we're going to zoom out, we're not going to see a lot of this, but it will make things appear to be a little bit clearer. So it doesn't have to be super pretty. It doesn't have to be super precise or any of that. We just want to be able to tell that it's a blade. We want to be able to it has cutouts, so that's important, right? So we want to be able to show that it has cutouts. So I'm just picking up lighter colors along the way, just to be able to articulate some parts of these so that it stands out against our bush. And again, I'm not going to squint for you. I'm not quite brave enough to do that just yet. But in normal, if I was doing this off of live, I would zoom out and squint at it to make sure that I'm seeing what I want to see, and make to see what's blending in and what needs to stand out a little bit better. So yeah, if you're just joining us, thank you so much for joining me. Whether you're watching us live or you're watching the replay, I know we have people come in and out, and that's all good. I thank you so much for popping in, for popping out. You're all well. If you have any questions about anything, leave them in the chat, and I'll try my best to answer those questions. And then if I miss it, usually I do watch the replay back just to make sure that everything's technically okay. If I need to. I think in our last live stream toward the end, my mic was messing up and I had no idea. I had no idea. So they gave me something to, make sure would not happen this particular live stream. So let's now that we're zooming out and I've made those small adjustments, you can kind of see the cutouts a little bit better. And so that's what we want. Now, another way that I could do that would be to darken the area behind this bush, but I don't want to do that, right? I want you to be able to see some of the texture behind the sword. So we can push it a little bit further. And I think that I will once I I plan to have like some fireflies in here. And so once I kind of get those in and dotted in, I'll be able to kind of see where I want to push the highlights and where I want those to show up. So for the time being, we're just sort of making this okay for now. And once I finish this and once I've gotten it to a place where it's okay, this is pretty good, then I will duplicate it for our second sword. So we don't have to go through this process twice because they're identical swords, right? Just like our source material, she was holding two identical swords. The same applies here. This is two identical swords. I don't have to dry this twice, which is nice. All right, so let's zoom back out. I've done a little bit more highlight work. So it looks a little bit better. It is an old rusty knife. Not knife. It's an old rusty sword. So it doesn't have to be super pretty. I think it looks old and rusty, which is nice. And that might be because of the colors that I chose to use. But yeah, I think it's working. I think it's working and coming together pretty well. And so we're just going to add a little bit more of that texture back into the top of the blade. And I'm going to look at what you guys can see. And I'm going to zoom this out again. And I think we're all right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to combine all of these things, merge them together. And we're going to call this the main sword. And what I'm going to do is actually edit the contrast. And the way that I'm going to do that is to do a tonal correction. And I'm going to use curves and I'm going to adjust the curves, meaning adjust how light and dark they are. And then I can go back and work on. Actually, you know what? Let me go back. I'm going to go back before we merge, and I'm going to duplicate all of this just in case I decide that I don't like any of this. I don't want to have to go back and do that again. So we're going to merge the duplicates, and we're going to turn off all of these older layers. Boom, like that. Now we can go back and do our tonal correction. That's what we'll do. So I saw a thread and someone was like, "How many layers do you typically have?" And I have quite a few. It's auto save, and the reason is again, if you want to make certain adjustments and things like that, your layers work just like a layer cake, right? So, or think a tier cake. If you have a tier cake, there's a complete cake at the bottom, and then there's a usually like a piece of cardboard or something like that, and then there's the cake on top. But if I don't want to cut through that bottom cake tier, I'll just cut down to that cardboard, and so layers sort of act in that way. So if I am painting something on, let's see, I have use two index cards here, right? So let's say I've painted my tree, I've painted my bush, I've painted my sword on this layer, right? Sword's here. And I want to make some adjustments to the sword, but maybe I'm not real sure that I'm going to be confident in that adjustment. So what I will do is I will create a layer on top of that. So I'll take another index card and I'll put it on top of that. Now this index card is going to be transparent, right? Unless I've painted in fully opaque, it acts as a transparent layer until I add color to it. So what it will do is allow me to paint and make adjustments to this top layer so that it does not affect the bottom layer. And so it kind of acts that way. So I usually work with a lot of layers. To me, naming a layer is very important because there are so many layers. It can easily get lost in the sauce. And if you guys can see above me in this live stream, I'll kind of scroll through some of the layers that we've already used. Some of this I will tidy up, as time goes. So, like, of course, the sword. If I decide that I like how light that is, and I'm just going to continue to work on that particular sword, then I don't have to keep the older layers. I can kind of get rid of that and shrink down my file size. Otherwise, we're just gonna, work and adjust our duplicate so that it does not mess up any of our original material. And so those are layers, right? So we've done that. We've duplicated our sword layers, all of them, and then we merged them together. And so what I'm going to do is go back to my curve panel, and I'm just going to make this a little bit lighter. Again, this is our focal point, right? So I don't necessarily want this to fade into the background. I do want it to feel very rich. I do want it to feel brighter than everything else except his lamp, because of course it is a lamp, so it is going to be brighter than most things in this picture. But I do want to keep in mind, that particular aspect. Now, what I will say is, as I'm looking at this, and as I am adjusting this, that it is adjusting the gold layer, which I don't want adjusted, right? So again, if we were because of that, I can actually go back to my original gold layer and set that on top so that I'm getting that color that I liked and that we created early on. All right. So yeah, that's what we're doing. So I don't like how dark it is because of I need it to stand out against the background. So I'm just going to lighten it up, and I'm going to make some of the darker, some of the highlights lighter, so that we have a better look. So it's lighter. So this is the adjustment that we made, and this is I guess I need to turn on my older layers. Let's turn it back on so you guys can see the difference between the new adjustment and what was done previously. So this is the new adjustment, and then this is what it looked like before. So this again is the new adjustment. This is what we'll be kind of working from here on, and then this is our older original swords layer. All right, so I'm going to go back on, and I'm actually just going to paint directly on top of this. I don't think it's necessary for me to create another layer just yet. So we're going to do that, and we're going to tidy this thing up because it's a sword. So it is a hard metal. Even though this is an older sword, it doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, um, even if it's in the background, we still want it to be crisp because we want it to appear to be what it is what it is. We want it to sell as such, sell as a sword. So we're just tightening up the shape a little bit. And what I will do again is zoom back out and see where I need to darken, where I need to lighten things. And I can tell here there is a division between this rust color and the like tan-ish color. So and I'm erasing. I don't mean to erase. What I want to do is paint this in. And we're going to take my regular round brush, and we're just going to paint in the look, just to tighten up the look of this sword, right? Again, it doesn't have to be rendered like completely out because it's pretty in the distance. And so a lot of the small details and things like that, you're not even going to see. We're just balancing everything out right now in terms of light, dark, shadow, blade edges, and things like that. So yeah, so thank you guys again so much for joining me. We're in about 45 minutes, so we're making pretty good time. I'm kind of glad that this has taken me a while because because I was like, I don't know what I would do next. Probably work on these foreground trees, but or the lantern. I do have the reference for the lantern if you guys want to see that. It looks like this. If it wants to load, come on, babe. But yeah, I will probably work on the lantern next. But the figure, this is our lantern reference. And because, his arm is obscuring part of the lantern, you're not going to see the whole thing, just the top in the globe. And I'll zoom in here for you all to be able to see that. Make this a little bit darker. So you will maybe paint this in. I'm not really sure what I want my figure to be wearing. So that he's probably going to be the last thing that I render out for this particular picture. I want to make sure that we have all of the atmosphere right. I want to make sure that we have all of the trees and the, rocks and all of the, landscape and stuff. I want to make sure that all of that is good before I get to him because I think he's going to be pretty much the easiest thing for me to work on. So let me go back and find my sword copy. Here's my sword copy. I think we're doing pretty good. I actually am going to stop painting on it. And what I'm going to do is add in my tree clips. And so the tree clips are just something that I drew in so that, it's not just it's not just floating on the tree, but it actually looks to be attached to the tree. So we're going to go in here and paint those in. And that's going to be relatively easy. There's just a couple of swipes with a little bit of shadow, and we'll add a little bit of shadow behind our sword so that it looks to be sitting on the tree or on the sitting in front of the tree and connected to the tree. And so we'll add just a little bit of a highlight here. Not much, but just to say that this is not necessarily a part of the sword, but it is attached to the tree. And we'll tighten this up a bit, square it off like this. Uh-oh. And then we'll add our shadow behind the tree so that it looks like it's sitting in front of it because it's going to cast a shadow, right? And I just lightly painted this in with an airbrush, and then I'm going to change my blend mode to multiply, and this should give us, there we go. That should give us a little bit of a darker look. And we're going to shrink this down a bit because I think I have it a bit too, it's too much there. Something like that. So let's zoom out and see what that did. Nice. Okay. Now, the only thing else that I would like to add to this, just to sort of that will affect the way that our sword looks, is a little bit of a twinkle, right? So it's kind of like fireflies. And so in order to achieve that, I'm going to go to my water brushes, and I have some sort of, there we go. I have some water twinkles that we'll add here specifically, and I want them to be a bright yellow. And I'm going to see how this looks. We'll see. There we go. Something like that. So like if you guys are gamers or if you're familiar with playing video games, anytime there is like a wall you need to climb or like, something you need to do, there's usually like something that will, draw your eye to it. And I think this is one of those things. So like that. And so because we have these twinkles now, that's going to affect some of the color in our swords, right? And we want to arrange them in such a way that if I paint the highlights in, because I'm only painting one sword, so if I paint like a little bit of rim light from this yellow into our bottom sword, that it actually makes sense when I duplicate it over to our top sword. So we don't want to just be adding things just to be adding things. We do want it to make a little bit of sense in terms of why we're doing something. So I'm going to label this our sword clips so that I know what that is. And then these are our twinkles. So I know what that is. And then on top of my sword, I'm going to add a rim light layer. And we're just going to lightly brush in some of this golden color while I have it activated. And I think what I'll do is rather than make it the same green, what I'll probably do, not the same green, the same yellow or the same intensity yellow, is I'll probably lower the saturation a little bit, which means lowering the intensity of the yellow, just so that we get just a softer yellow, right? So I'm going to go back down to my favorite main brush. This is Hotline. And again, these brushes that I use, my very main brushes, I got from the artist Eric Anthony, who I believe, I'm not really sure if they were, I don't remember how much I paid for these brushes. They weren't expensive. If I paid anything, a lot of times artists will offer their brushes for free, and you can give them a donation. But he has a Gumroad store, and I like his brushes because he is someone who I would say has a very similar style to my own. And so I was certainly drawn to, using his brushes. The water brushes I got from Aaron Blaze. And Aaron Blaze used to work for Disney as an animator. Aaron Blaze has a YouTube channel where he does time lapses, he does live streams, he does tutorials. He has a whole art school where he sells courses and things like that for you to learn lighting. I have purchased his lighting course, which helps me out a lot with knowing where to put light and making sure you're clear about your light source and things like that. So yeah, Aaron Blaze is pretty great. Especially if you like that old, not I won't call his, I'm not calling his style old, but if you like the classic Disney animation style, he's great with that. He is awesome with that. And so one of the things early on when I found him, again, I'm one of those types of people that I really enjoy watching the process of other people create. It motivates me. It makes me feel creative. So anytime I'm in an art slump or like in an art block, you know what I mean? And that happens just like writers have writer's blocks. Anytime I'm experiencing that sort of thing, I would watch. Aaron Blaze was one of the guys that I would watch his time lapse videos. There was another guy whose name is Webb something, and it's been a really long time since I've seen any of his time lapse videos. But he would do these sort of anime style characters, and the time lapses would be like hella sped up. But they would be like 25-minute long time lapses, which to me signals that he spent many, many hours putting the image together. But I would watch a lot of his work as well, and that would just kind of motivate me. The same reason I was not exactly the same reason, but the same reason why I was watching, went down memory lane to sort of watch some of my older videos on this channel, was because I really I needed the motivation, right? I needed to see where I had been so that I can kind of see where I'm going, right, with this particular channel, and learning about or trying to make a decision as to, what kind of content to create, what kind of videos to make, what to share, how much to share. Because again, I started this channel almost 10 years ago, and it has evolved, right? I don't do quite as many time lapses as I have done because I don't record quite in the same way. And the reason why I actually stopped recording my digital time lapses is because at the time I was working on a computer that just couldn't handle me working on the computer and recording. So it just, it just had to kind of stop for that reason. I do have now a computer that does handle it very well, handle me recording. So I don't know yet if I will have more time lapses. I don't think that I will have them of these particular images, except in the short form video content sort of way. So I'll show you guys this one, for instance. So like if you've ever seen my reels and things like that, there'll be more of those. But in terms of like full out time lapses and things like that, I have to actually record them separately. So I can't do that in live. So I don't know. I'm working it out. So yeah, went back through memory lane to sort of figure out where I wanted to take this channel, what kind of content I wanted to create. And that's where you guys come in, right? So here is, let me start it over, see if it'll pick up. So here is the beginning where I started with this particular picture. So yeah, there will be this particular video available specifically on Instagram Reels and Facebook Reels. I don't really put up a lot of the YouTube Shorts. I don't know that this particular type of content would do well there. I should probably try it out and see. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so there'll be this sort of thing taking place. And so this is the whole process that you guys have watched me do on live. I don't know, and that's kind of where my studying landscapes kind of comes in, right? Because if I'm studying landscapes, then you guys can see me in the process of studying and drawing landscape or whatever it is I'm drawing and studying, right? So if you want to see that kind of thing, if you want to see that content, if you enjoyed some of the older videos, the time lapses, let me know. That really does help me kind of figure out where to go with this. I do have some content in regards to how to hire a graphic designer. And that really was rooted in having had experiences, multiple experiences with small business owners who had never hired a graphic designer or illustrator. And so I was noticing a pattern with these particular kinds of clients where, of course, it is our job as service providers to answer questions and to sort of guide the process, right? But some of these sort of expectations that these clients had weren't your expectation was one thing, but the reality of it was something completely different. And so I do have a few videos where I'm training up new business owners to get ready to hire graphic designers and illustrators. It's very different landscape now because we have our Canva. You got people who are using AI. You have people, especially in the smaller business realm, right? And when I say small business, I don't mean like a small business can be, I think, up to like 500 employees, but I mean like newer businesses, right? Newer solo entrepreneur businesses. A lot of them are, and rightfully so. This is because you don't always have the budget to hire, right? So a lot of them are moving to the Canva. They're moving to sites like Fiverr and Upwork, which I do not recommend for a number of reasons. But that is a reality, right? That is something that is happening. And so when they're going these avenues, they have expectations that when they come to someone like myself, that it'll be similar to that hiring experience. And it's not, right? So I do have videos about that. I do have content written, and I just need to sit down and record it about being an artist and being a professional artist and owning your own business as an artist, and what to look for when you are choosing clients, and those kind of things. But you guys have to tell me, what is it that you want to see from me, right? Do you want to see me talk more about digital work, right? Do you want to learn more about that specifically? Do you want to just focus on the tarot deck? Do you want me to show you some of the commission work and maybe record that process and walk you through the entire process, like what it is to have a consultation with me, what it is to go from idea or ideation to actually interpreting that into a solid product or a sketch and things like that. So I don't know. You guys have to tell me what it is that you want to see. I do like doing the live stream, so some of that could be done live. I got so many things, I got so many things that I can share. Like for instance, I showed you guys my book that I wrote in 2021, What the Libra Shadows. The physical copies have been sold out for a while now. However, it's been about 3 years since I wrote and published that book. It's time for a redesign for it, because at the time that I was working on it, I was working on the Cosmic Gateway Tarot. So I didn't spend a whole lot of time laying it out. I outsourced that, meaning I purchased a template, and I, because I'm a designer, so I just made it look the way that I wanted it to look. However, having gone back and grown 3 years and gone back and actually looked at the design and paid attention to that, I believe that it needs to be redesigned. So I could share some of that process, not during Sundays, of course, because we set aside Sundays specifically for the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, but just thinking in terms of other content that I can create that you guys might enjoy, right? So if that's something that you want to see, again, we could do anything. There are no limits at this point when it comes to creativity because I have so many skills and so many skill sets. And I don't mind sharing that, right? Definitely, as you guys see, I'm not camera shy by any means. I laugh because when I started to actually get on camera, before I even like took the leap of faith to do that, I was so afraid. I think I was afraid of, I don't know what I was afraid of, to be quite honest. I really don't. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know what I was afraid of. A lot of times we overthink things, but we've gotten over that. So I do not mind sharing some of those things if you are interested in me doing so. So, if you're watching this live or if you're watching the playback, again, I thank you so, so much. It's been about an hour, so we're going to cut it off about here. But if there is something that you want to see, if you have questions and things like that, please be sure to leave them in the comments. I do read all of the comments. I try to respond to them as much as I can. It's usually just us, so it's just us, right? So we chilling. So if you have a comment or you have a question or anything like that, you can post them to the comments. If you don't want to leave a public comment, you can DM me on Instagram. I usually get back to people pretty quickly on Instagram. Not so much with Facebook DMs. I'm not on Facebook like that. I do share to Facebook. But if you want to DM me on Instagram or if you want to shoot me an email, all of the links to everything will be down in the description. And if you want to share if you want to support this particular stream, if you want to support this project, consider leaving me a coffee or buying me a coffee. It's just a small donation that helps, keep me able to work on this with you guys. So please do that. Also, you can visit my shop. We have lots of different things, such as our journals. We have canvas prints of the images of the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. Again, every one of those purchases helps a independent artist, myself, and it allows me to be able to create full time. So I do appreciate you all. I won't hold you too long. As always, please have a creative and prosperous day, and I hope you all have a